I cannot wait to take you guys on this journey. We're talking to artists, creators, cosplayers. We're talking to everybody. Check it out.
Yummy!
Oh, no. The Negan verse?
We are here.
Now we have 2 Negans? I feel like the world didn't need 1 Negan.
The world needs many Negans. We need you. We're saving the world, one person at a time. And the people who, of course, get in the way gotta go.
Negan, who's Negan 1 and who's Negan 2? Okay. Wow, very humble of you, Negan.
He's my mini-me Negan.
Negan, what number Comic-Con is this for you guys?
Oh my gosh.
5 for me for New York.
Actually, 5 for me for New York as well.
Wow. Are we always a pair of Negan?
No, we discovered each other.
Why Negan?
Why not Negan? Come on.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
We are all Negan.
Are we though?
We are all Negan.
You got red on.
I am here with the absolutely fierce Nen. Nen, welcome.
Hi, I'm a traditional painter. Most of the stuff that I do is capturing extreme despair in characters. So kind of like reinterpreting what is sexually attractive in females. In normal pop culture, it's generally considered that like people who are like kind of submissive are considered to be like sexually viable as opposed to people who show aggression. Kind of like take those elements into like my pinups and stuff like that, but then also kind of deal with like vulnerability and despair in like my fine art work.
What inspires you to create?
I take a lot of influence from like music. A lot of it is definitely just kind of like trying to capture something like surreal and find a new way of describing a specific moment.
So is this your first Comic-Con?
No, I've actually been here for 5 years.
Science fiction and media in general has been getting a lot of flack for not showing enough diversity. Has that been something that you've seen change?
A lot of the stuff that I see now is definitely like corporate cash grabbing. They see that there is a desire to create like more diversity in comics, but they see it more as like an opportunity to cash grab instead of doing something genuine. And I think that the solution is to instead support genuine stories from creators of color. And I think that that's super important.
What's you or your family's immigration story?
Well, my mother came over here in like the 80s. She was a translator in Taiwan. My father is white. She ended up being his translator when he was overseas. She married him and came over here. The rest of my family all lives in Taiwan still.
Is this your full-time job?
Yes, it is.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, Brad Squad, we are here with Jason and Kareem. What are we cosplaying as today?
King Mickey from Kingdom Hearts.
Nice.
Organization 13 from Kingdom Hearts.
Is this your first Comic-Con?
Yes, it is.
So what brings you guys out here today?
A constant desire to always want to come here, but always wanted to find the time or how you were going to experience it. So it was make the best out of your first chance, and this is exactly what we did. We got to meet some amazing people.
Who is Comic-Con for?
I feel it's for all the fans that really admire everything that they come to see on TV and they actually want to act it out in real life. This is their real chance once a year to get away from reality and step into something else that's bigger than themselves.
Another thing about, Comic-Con is that being here, it gives you a chance to be, let your inner nerd come out. Because normally that's one of those things that gets shunned upon on the outside. It's like, oh, that person needs to grow up. But being here, it's like I can let that flourish and not be shunned for it. It's kind of like a family setting. Just a really big family.
What's your immigration story?
My father is from Saudi Arabia. He brought my mother there. She's from the Americas. He wanted to broaden her horizons. And she stayed there with him for a while, had me, and she wanted me to get the American experience. So we came back to America, and ever since then I've been trying to chase the American dream.
Born and raised in the Bronx.
Nice. What's your full name, Jason?
Well, you're not gonna believe, but my full name is actually Jason Bourne.
You're Jason Bourne, but you're dressed as King Mickey and not Jason Bourne.
I call that my cover-up.
I am here with one half of the Sun Bros, Brad. Hi, Brad.
Hey, how you doing?
Thank you so much for joining us. So you are one of the illustrators that has a booth here at Artist Alley at Comic-Con. Is this your first year at Comic-Con?
Yeah, this is our first year tabling here in Artist Alley, so happy to be here.
Tell me a little bit about your comics.
My brother and I, my brother's name is Wesley, we self-publish all our own books, funded through Kickstarter. So we've made a few books. Probably the graphic novel we're known for most is our first one, Chinatown. It's kind of a supernatural, surreal mystery story set in Chinatown. Starts when a little girl goes missing in town. stranger trippy things start happening. Chinese gangsters show up, and it just keeps escalating from there.
Now, you were telling me a little bit also about your book, Monkey Fist. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, Monkey Fist was our second graphic novel. It's kind of an irreverent reimagining of the Monkey King story, Journey to the West, but it's set in modern day. Our monkey works in a fast food restaurant, and he goes on a journey fighting monsters. One of the things my brother and I try to do when we make our stories is try to tell stories from our unique perspective.
Yeah.
Those kind of shared cultural experiences, our heritage from our background. Our parents grew up in Malaysia, Chinese from Malaysia, and then also the influences of us here as first-generation Americans.
How do you blend those cultures together?
You know, we try to add those things in kind of like subtextually through visual elements. One of the great things about comics is, you know, you can put a lot of visual like indicators in without having to like, you know, be heavy-handed about the point. So they're there for people to discover if they want to, or they could just enjoy the story on a more surface level.
You mentioned your parents were originally from Malaysia. What is your family's immigration story?
My father moved here for college, and then my mother joined a little bit later.
Okay.
So they knew each other over there, and then they moved over here and got married. We grew up in Florida, or in Orlando. I'm actually in Boston right now. My brother lives in Chicago, so we still collaborate, but long distance. So we've been exposed to a lot of different Chinatowns. The Chinatown of Chinatown is kind of kept as a universal, kind of could be anywhere, but it does have some direct references to Chicago's Chinatown, and then also some other like of our favorite Chinese restaurants growing up. It's been pretty rewarding to see the kind of people, seems like all kinds of different people, male, female, young, old, are interested in our books. And I think the bottom line is if you tell like an interesting, you know, like an honest, you know, story, you know, that you really believe in, people respond to that. It's just a matter of getting your stuff out there and getting the exposure so people can see those things.
We are here with a wonderful T. Franklin. Hi, T.
Hey.
T, can you explain to us a little bit about your graphic novel?
So Bingo Love is a Black queer love story. These two young girls meet in 1963 and they develop feelings for each other, but because of the time period, it's not allowed. So they're given an ultimatum by their parents to go straight or be disowned, and they do the normal right thing. They get married, kids, grandkids, and 50 years later, they bump into each other at a bingo hall. And now they need to decide, should they stay in their loveless marriages or spend the rest of the time that they have left with each other.
Well, I have to read to find out what they decide.
I mean, pretty much.
This is an absolutely wonderful story that's being told. I love absolutely how diverse it is, and that has been something that has been largely lacking in that Comic-Con and comics in general have gotten a lot of flack for lacking. How do you feel like that's changed in recent years?
Hasn't changed, not really.
That's the answer.
Not really. I did Bingo Love as a Kickstarter. I asked for a dollar short of 20 grand. We raised almost $60,000. So, but this was during the time where the folks at Marvel were like, diversity doesn't sell. And I'm like, do you not see my Kickstarter? Like, it's selling. Yeah, it's a book about queer grandmas, but that doesn't mean that nobody will buy it. The book ended up getting 3 printings.
Whoa.
So I'm just saying, it seems like it sells to me.
What's your immigration story?
Everybody was, well, for the most part, born here.
What's the ultimate goal for your graphic novel?
I would love to see it as a TV show.
Amazing.
Or a movie.
Yeah.
That would be like the ultimate goal.
Hey, Brad Squad, I'm here with Mo. Now, which Comic-Con number is this for you?
Let me think. So I went to 2012, 2014, 15, 16, 17. This is my 6th one then.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Who is Comic-Con for, Mo?
I think it's for everyone. There's a lot of artists that I like seeing here, a lot of cartoons I'm still interested in that I like seeing panels for. It's things that anyone can enjoy, really.
What has changed over the last 6 years?
I think there's been a bit more of a mainstream appeal. When I first went, it was pretty empty, but now I think it's evened out a bit, you know? I've seen a bit more diversity, but it's not as much as I would want. I'm still waiting on my Miss Marvel movie. I do think there should be more representation of East Asian cultures, Middle Eastern cultures, Latino cultures. Like, I think Black Panther was a good step forward, showing that other cultures can be represented, and, you know, I know Wakanda is fictional, but it does adopt a lot of themes and styles from other African cultures.
What's your immigration story, Mo?
I myself am not an immigrant, but I am a first-generation American. My dad and my mom are both from Iraq, and they came here to give me and my sisters a better life. They, you know, they didn't like what Saddam was doing with the country, so they just left, and I'm glad they did that, because if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would have been able to enjoy this. I feel like it makes me a bit more glad to be where I am. I know sometimes I might take things for granted, but in moments like this, I feel like I gotta really take it in. There's a lot of people who can't have what I have, and they deserve the right to have what I have, pretty much.
This brings us to an end of Comic-Con. This was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for sticking around, and we'll see you next time, Brad Squad.